Hello friends, welcome to Salesforce CRM Analytics video session 86. So basically in today's video, we will just continue and further try to understand the compute relative node. We will have a few more sessions, where we can understand the concept of compute relative. Okay. Anyways, in the last session, I showed you that how we calculated the start date. Okay. So let me first of all properly show you this part on the dataset side. Okay. So if I go to my dataset, now here, let's say filter. Okay. Let's say filter by device code equal to this one. Okay. And let's click on apply. So as you can see very clearly over here, that start date, right? It's all showing 1, 2. And also let me bring the date part. Okay. So this date part, as you can see, it's there in ascending order. Okay. And the start it is all showing 1, 2 if you see, and that's what we done in our Excel sheet, right? And similarly, if I go for this one device code equal to J342, and if I click on apply, okay. So as you can see, this J342, fine. This is actually not in ascending. Let's do one thing. State part. Mhm. Okay. So if we click over here, uh, okay. So if you click over here, right, you will be able to sort it out. Okay. So let's say I sort it out in ascending order. Okay. So 9 2, as you can see, the start that is given as 9 2, and that is what is matching over here as well, 9 2. So you understand this is how we are calculating with the help of compute relative. Now this part you won't be able to do on compute expression, because in compute expression you do the calculation across one particular row. So for one particular row, whatever calculation we did, it will has to take this kind of values only into consideration. Okay, for example, for this first row, okay, if I had to put one start date when I was doing some calculation compute expression, then it will only take these rows into consideration. However, in compute relative, you will be able to do the calculation across the row, like we were using that function previous first. Okay, so we will go ahead and you will understand it better right now with this derive expression which we're doing. So the next part I will find is what is the count of readings. Okay, so how many readings have I taken on each device code? That's the whole purpose for this count of reading. Fine. So for this one, what we are going to do is we will go to this data flow which we are designing. Now here, what I will write is I will add one more field and I will just write count of readings. Okay. Now this one we already did for source feed. We will now do for SQL. Okay. Now SQL here, the scale we will provide as 0. That's fine. Now I will write one SQL statement. So I want to find the count of reading. So how I can do that? I will write case when. Okay. So let me copy this. Now we can use this function. It is called previous. Okay. Something which you wouldn't have been able to do if you were using, if we are using a compute expression node. Okay. Because there you can't have such kind of functions of previous or not, because it only does calculation across one row. Okay. But here I can use these functions like previous, next, first. Okay. All these things. Fine. Okay. So here what I was saying is if my previous count of readings is equal to null, let's say, then I will put the value as 1. Okay. I will put the value as 1 when my previous count of reading. So let me copy this. When my previous count of reading, okay, is, let's say, less than, sorry, uh, more than 0, then it will be count of reading plus 1. Okay. Count of reading plus 1. So ideally what I'm doing, why I'm doing this is because see, this is previous, right? This is the previous count of reading. So first of all, let me copy this and let me paste it in my Excel sheet, which I was doing over here. Okay, let's broaden this cell a bit. Okay, that's completely fine. Okay. So this is the whole thing. Fine. Let's do one thing. Let me paste it somewhere over here. Grab. Okay. That's fine. This is the anyhow one question. So this is the expression when my previous count of reading. So see, for here I don't have any previous count of reading, so it is anyhow null. So by default it will be 1 over here because I've written 1. And when my previous count of reading is more than 0, so if I come to the second row, right, I can see my previous count of reading is more than 0, right? Previous means the previous one. So here it is more than 0, which is 1. Then it will be count of reading plus 1, which means it will be 2 over here. Then again, if it comes to third row, it will be previous count of reading plus 1 again. So it will be 3 over here, and this is how it will continue. You got my point? This is how this thing will continue. Okay. Now, again, here it won't be 9. Let me tell you, that's why this partition comes into picture. See, there's a role of partition by in computative node. So don't say that after 8, in the 11th row, it will be 9. No, it won't be 9. It will again start over. Okay, because there's a partition, there's a gap. Partition means gap. Once the gap is there, again, it will restart. That's how it is. Okay. So again, when the previous count of, so for this one, it will be null once again. Okay, because it doesn't have any previous count of reading. I know ideally you will say the previous count of reading is this one, but try to understand when it's partitioned, when you have already, there's a partition, there's a gap, there won't be any previous one. Okay. So for this one also, this row 11, which is J342, there's no previous count of reading. So again, it will be 1 over here. And again, that's how it will start. Okay. So please understand the meaning of partition by. That's a very important concept. Okay. Now, I think this is done. Default value, maybe I can put it as 1. That's completely fine. Okay. So here I will just write 2. Count the number of readings. Okay. And let me click on save. Fine. Save, propagate. Let me click on update. And let me run this. Okay, it's saying fail. Now let's check what's the issue. So here it's saying error at count of readings after token position, count of reading plus 1. Okay. So let's check what's the issue. So I think somewhere over here I made a mistake. Okay, so it will be count of reading plus 1 and didn't put the end statement. Okay, so whenever you're doing case when, you have to put the end statement. Okay, that is something I missed out. Okay, that's not an issue. We'll learn, and now I will run the data flow. Okay, so let's monitor this. Again, it's showing fail. Now let's see what's the issue once again. Something went wrong. Referencing SQL only allowed with previous. Something went wrong. Executing the started and count self referencing relative SQL expression only allowed with previous in field. Okay, let's check what's the issue here. So case when my previous count of readings is equal to null, then it is 1. When previous count of reading is more than 0, then count of readings plus 1. And okay, this is a secure, which is fine. Yes, scale is 0. What's the issue here? Okay, let's check what's the issue. Okay, guys, I have got this one. So basically here, if you see it's saying self-referencing relative estimation only allowed with previous. Okay, so basically there's a field for count of readings. What I've done one mistake here. Actually, here it shouldn't be count of readings. Okay, so I'm checking that count of readings, so it should be previous. Fine. So here actually it should be previous count of reading plus 1. Okay? So let me write here previous, because here we can't deal with the current, we have to deal with the prior ones. Okay, so here it will be case when previous count, then one I'm putting in when previous count of reading is more than 0, then it cannot be count of reading, you understand, because the count of reading is none, right? So it won't be able to catch up what's the value it's picking, because it's not reached in that particular current cell, right? So this will be the complete expression. I missed this previous part. It should be previous count of reading plus 1. Okay, so now let me just put this over here as well. So case when previous count of so previous count plus 1. Now hopefully it should run successfully. Now let's save once again. Let's update. Let's run, and now let's see. Now it runs successfully. So now very quickly, okay, let me first save this. Let me write it as iterating transformation so that I don't have to worry about making it from scratch once again. Okay. So now let me save it and share. Now what I will do is I will refresh this. And now what I will bring is I will bring the count of rows. Okay. Count of reading. Okay. So as you can see here, like this is for J, right? For J, I have 1 to 7, and that's what I did over here. Okay, 1 to 7. Fine. The next part is if I go for this filter H134. So again, if you see, it is coming from 1 to 8, as you can see here. Okay. And that's what I did in my Excel sheet as well. It's coming from 1 to 8. Okay. So that's the whole purpose of this part, which we did. Fine. Now, the next part, which we will try to understand is this one. Okay. So this one we already proved, and yeah, I can also save it, not an issue. And the next part is, let's say right now, I want to create one more relative where I want to find the end date. So I already found out the start date, right? The start date is something we found out. Now the next part is if we want to find out the end date, okay? So here I will just go for compute relative once again, okay? So here I will write end date, let's say, and my source will be this one, okay? Partition by it will be again this one, that is device code, but this time I will go for descending. I will go for the date order by, but I will go for descending. And what I will write is I will write end date. Okay, this will be my end date. Okay, so let me write to calculate end date. Fine. And here my source field will be, of course, this one. My source is nothing but date, and I will just go for my first one. Okay, that's fine. And let me click on save. Fine. Let me click on create, and I will just join this one with this one. Okay. So now what I'm doing is, see, in the next node, because I'm going for the next compute relative node, so I will just create one more sheet. Okay. And firstly, here right now I'm saying is this, let me copy this whole thing. Okay. Let me copy this whole thing. That won't be a big deal. Fine. So I copied this whole thing over here. Okay. But this time, if you see, my order by is in descending order. So that means what I will do is, this whole thing is fine, but I have to make this in descending order, the date part. Okay. So in the date part, what I will do is I will go for this filter and I will go from sort newest to oldest. Okay. So right now, if I do it, okay, you see it's giving me in descending order. Okay. Now what I will do is, so this whole part, let me just paste it here, and this H1, let me just paste it here. Okay. And this one, let me paste it here. Okay. So now I'm calculating one field called end date. Okay. That's what I'm doing. And what I'm saying is I'm just saying that it is in descending order and you mark the first date. Okay. So that means what will be the first date for each row? My first date is nothing but this one, right? So this is how it will calculate. Okay. Over here also this one, and this whole thing will be this one itself. Fine. And over here, if I copy this, it will be here. It will be here as well. Okay. And I just need to drag it. Okay. This is how this will come. So yeah, we will actually check the result of this ended in our next video, and we will further calculate a few things. Okay. So yeah, please do like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.